Hi y'all, White Helmet History here. Today, this is a video that I've been wanting to make for a while. It's something that I believe is very important to talk about, especially in the medical side of reenacting. However, I will say it's not maybe one of the most fun things to talk about. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my story with an injury that is rather common in the hobby and that I see a lot as a medic. And share how I learned from it and how to prevent it. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So 2 years ago at our Zephyr Hills event in November, I became a victim of something called heat exhaustion. Now what this is it is the predecessor to heat stroke. So usually you see symptoms of usually nausea, symptoms vomiting, memory loss, and kind of foggy thinking, glassy look in the eyes, redness in the face, lack of sweating, or sometimes even copious sweating, and among others. So it was an event like any other, showed up, I was gung-ho. I had only been reenacting for about 2 years at that point. And I did not have my BLS or basic life support cert then. This is actually the event that pushed me to get that, by the way. But yeah, so I was gung-ho, decided to do the event. And nothing wrong with being gung-ho, but I was inexperienced. And well, I would learn. And I still had a lot to learn. So I show up, I have my full wools on, I'm excited to do the event. It's Florida, so it's like 100 degrees out. Wearing wools was my first mistake. And I'll point that out there's a common misconception that I've seen pop up in reenacting that, wools were the only uniform worn in combat by the German army. HPTs were only training uniforms. That is completely false. German soldiers realized, just like anyone else would, that, well, an army is more effective when it can actually fight, and that when it's not dying of heat exhaustion or heat-related illness. So in hotter environments, they would wear HPTs. The only issue is it's kind of hard as historians looking back at photos, these black and white photos, it's hard to tell the green color of the HPTs from the filled cloud or filled gray color of the wools. But if you look closely at a lot of period photos, depending on the location, they're there. Which that's the first lesson I learned from this. And I'll get back to that later. So I wear my wools, 100 degrees out. I wanted to be as accurate as possible, and I believe that myth. The event goes on, and I'm with my reenactment group, and as it gets later on in the day, we get ready to prepare for the battle. Well, during the day, and this is my second mistake, was I drank a bunch of water, thinking, oh, well, I drank water, I'm hydrated, but I didn't eat. So this is something I see, especially a lot of younger people doing, and because it's just something people don't think about. I mean, I didn't think about it till this happened to me. But you think, okay, well, I drink a lot of water, I'm hydrated, I'm good. Well, you also need to eat. And the reason for that is because when you are out in an environment such as that, you're sweating a lot, well, you're sweating out your potassium, your sodium, and your electrolytes. And when you drink water, you're not replenishing those. What you're doing is you're effectively diluting the rest of those minerals that is in your body. And when you eat, you replenish those. So usually a good habit to get in is eating food that is high in those minerals. Like usually I'll have a banana for my potassium every morning, and I'll usually have like liquid AV throughout the day, which replenishes my sodium and my electrolytes. So, but yeah, and that's just a good way of combating that and keeping yourself taken care of in an environment where, say, you're sweating a lot, such as, well, on the reenactment battlefield. So I'm drinking a lot, I didn't eat, I feel fine, but still, and again, it's 100 degrees out in full wools. I get my combat kit on, Piece of machinery broke, no biggie. This happens a lot. We pushed the battle off by about an hour. We had 2 guys go down before the battle because of heat stuff. Again, just trying to survive, and it had gotten too hot for them, which no judgment there. But me being young, I wanted to push myself and do the battle and give the best show I could. So I do the battle. After the battle, I felt absolutely terrible. In the picture, I just went back to camp and collapsed. They put some ice on me. Little did I know, other people were going down as well on the half track. And side note, so many people went down from heat of this event that we couldn't do a battle the next day. And yeah, so however, out of everybody, I was the most critical, being because, well, I moved around more than anybody else in trying to put on a good show as a medic. So I was the only person that wound up getting taken away in an ambulance. I wound up at the hospital. The EMTs had already stuck 2 IVs in me by that point. I get to the hospital, and I'll spare the details, but it was a lot to get me to keep food down. I had a couple more IVs run from potassium to sodium to electrolyte, like it just switching off constantly. And when it was just me, the nurse comes in, who's an awesome guy, who's a former Marine, and he goes, "I'm going to tell it to you straight. This is a moment I'm never going to forget." He's like, "If you'd been left out on that field for another hour, your organs would have started shutting down, and they could have brought you here, and there would have been nothing we could have done." And that's when things got real for me. Of like, oh my gosh, I could have died. I guess because it's like, again, like growing up in Florida, you don't think like, oh, like it's just hot, but it really is a serious threat. So after this, I learned from those lessons, and it's like, okay, well, how did I learn? This is what pushed me to get my BLS, or Basic Life Support certification. I'm now starting to work towards my EMTB certification, which I'll be going for this summer. And so I could better take care of not just myself, but others. And I also took the lessons learned and the potassium, sodium, electrolytes, and how important it is to eat food. And use that to keep myself from going down again at other events, but also to keep other people in my unit or larger events at D-Day Ohio from going down, of just kind of giving that friendly advice. And to me, that's honestly really important as a medic reenactor, because not only are we representing medics and the history of medics, but also as someone who's portraying a medic in these battles, you are the person who will probably come across a real world casualty first. That is why I strongly, strongly encourage anyone portraying a medic to go get you can either take it at your local fire station, or there's also 100% online courses where you can get a BLS certification online. And I highly encourage anyone who's portraying a medic to get a BLS certification, so they can effectively treat somebody on the battlefield and at least keep them stable, keep their condition from getting worse before the EMTs and the paramedics arrive to administer better aid with better equipment. But yeah, and also too, like again, started bringing liquid IV to events, which I strongly recommend that to anyone who reenacts in a hotter area, or also just portrays a medic, that it's a good thing to have, both for yourself and for other people. And I've seen it turn people's condition around insanely quickly. And again, also too, wear your HPTs. I cannot stress that enough. If the event's hot, it is definitely worth it. And also another quick side note for fellow medic reenactors. Well, how do you treat someone who is showing symptoms of heat stroke or heat exhaustion? Well, again, look for the symptoms that I said before of look for glassy eyes, lack of sweating, profusely sweating, red face, kind of foggy thinking. And you want to get the person to a cool area, so usually that's out of the sun and into the shade. And you want to start immediately stripping as much of the uniform and equipment that's making them hot off as possible. So what we usually do is we start taking off like jackets, strip them down to the undershirt and pants, then we start taking off the web gear, the jacket, and boots are usually the main things that come off for us, as well as gaiters. And then what we do is we try and cool down the areas that have the most blood flow, which would help cool down the body faster. So these are the neck, the armpits, and the groin. And usually you can do this either by pouring water on it or by sticking cold water bottles in these areas, or a cold pack or a cold rag around the neck or in these areas, and it works perfectly fine. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching the end of the video. I really appreciate all y'all and all your support of me and my channel. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. And yeah, so stay safe, stay hydrated, stay healthy, and God bless y'all, and happy reenacting.